do things to become obese and sick and that sort of thing. Even parents, I thought this was an interesting data point, will discriminate against their own obese children. After controlling for income and grades, parents provide less college support on average for their overweight kids than their normal weight offspring. So there's an attitude toward overweight and obese people that's not very welcoming in the world, and that probably adds, it does add to the situation. Teasing is a frequent consequence. 30% of adolescent girls and 24.7% of adolescent boys report that they've been teased by their peers. And also, they're teased by family members and siblings. About 14% of adolescent girls and almost 10% of boys report being teased by family members and their peers. And this has a devastating effect because it leads to low self-esteem and depression, sometimes suicidal ideation and suicide attempts. And the mental health of our kids in this country has never been worse, so we don't need anything else to add to it. Obese female adolescents are more likely to develop depression or anxiety in adulthood than normal weight kids. They're also less likely, overweight adolescents, to get married and less likely to achieve economic success. And there's a great deal of job discrimination that goes on against obese people too. Employment, housing, even when applying for loans. So there's a lot of stigmatizing, and that leads to low self-esteem. So the stereotypical view of obese people on behalf of many is that they're lazy, weak-willed, unsuccessful, unintelligent, they lack self-discipline, have poor willpower, and are non-compliant with weight loss treatment. And by the way, when I show you some of the data on weight loss programs and what goes on, it just takes my breath away that we offer ridiculous solutions to people who are overweight or obese. And then when the ridiculous situations don't work, we, collectively, the population, stigmatize the people who've been victimized by the programs that they bought and invested in, thinking that they could get better, and they don't. So misery varies by gender and age. Obese women in middle age and older encounter more stigma and discrimination than similarly aged obese men. Men are more likely to be stigmatized when they're younger. Studies show that people believe that obese people are responsible for their condition. And by the way, they are. But they also are, they're like prey for aggressive people selling programs. And most disturbing, health professionals who are often recommending some of these programs have the same bias. So we need a better solution for a lot of reasons. And then I'm sure you've all witnessed this, and it's painful to watch. An obese person requiring a seatbelt extender on a plane, somebody questioning if a chair can hold his weight, trying to purchase a bridesmaid's dress in a big enough size. So nobody likes being in these situations, and only a pretty callous and non-empathetic person could insist that anybody would consciously choose to be in this situation. Nobody chooses it. And I think some of the most judgmental people I know are people who've never experienced some of this stuff themselves, and they'd have a different view if they did. Now, let's get into weight loss and weight loss plans and that sort of thing. So the first thing I want to put out there is I divide people who have a weight problem into two categories. So some are like me. Some overweight people may have done a lot of different diets, but they find plant-based eating, which is a calorie dilute diet where you can eat a lot of food and the fiber fills you up and you don't have to worry about portion control. I lost weight, kept it off. And the reason why people like me gain weight, didn't know what to eat, didn't understand calorie density of foods, let themselves go because of children, job, whatever, went through a bad time. Divorce is great for weight gain. Some of you might have experienced that, or moving or caring for, or the death of a family member. So they don't have issues. People in this situation, they don't have issues that interfere with maintaining a healthy diet, normal weight. They have bad habits, but not resistant to change. I mean, when I read John McDougall's book, I thought, okay, I can do this. I'm going to try it. It makes sense to me. And I never had a problem again, right? And I'm not saying this to brag about myself. I'm saying this to exempt people like me from the problem population, because I don't need a solution, but the serial dieter definitely does. And by the way, I will say, some people say it's hard for them to maintain their habits in a sea of people who don't have good habits, and I've experienced that. But you can make it work. My friends are pretty considerate, and one thing I'll just put this out there: it has less to do with weight than it does living in a sea of unhealthy people who don't eat the way that you do. I think that one of the problems with family and friends is often, if you're people like me, back before I read McDougall's book and did this, I was always on a diet of some sort, never worked. And so it was hard, I'm sure, for some people to think about rearranging things to accommodate me because, well, it's the 200th time Pam went on a diet, so this will probably pass. But what I noticed is as I stuck with it, and people saw it isn't passing. She lost all this weight. I started running marathons. I mean, it was definitely like a sea change, something different going on. Then my friends got very considerate. Like nobody would invite me over to dinner at their house. And it hasn't happened for years where they wouldn't prepare something for me. I don't even have to bring food anymore, So I tell people who change their diet and don't get a lot of support from other people, stick with it for a while because it'll be the first time it's ever happened in your friend group, and then people will shift as well. But the point is, and these are the people we want to talk about, other people have a lot of difficulty with this. They've been overweight since childhood. They eat for the wrong reasons. They've done it for a long time. They often cope using food as a form of drug, but we're going to talk about the addiction thing. It doesn't apply here. They're often not even aware that they do it. They are aware of the negative consequences of being obese, and they're concerned about it. And once they're shown, they understand what they're supposed to do, but they have difficulty doing it. And this even is true for this particular group of people with a plant-based diet. They've restricted for so long, they can't adopt ad libitum eating. And you can't get them to eat enough food. They are out, they don't really know how to set boundaries and take time for themselves, and a whole lot of things that need to be fixed. And that's the point that we're eventually going to get to. And by the way, the reason they eat is not pleasure seeking. They're mischaracterized. In other words, I've never had an obese person who's done 50 diets sit down with me and say, I just want to let you know, I love pizza. I love, bagels and cream cheese, really thick cream cheese, and I love fried food, and I just can't see myself giving it up. That is not the problem here. That is not the problem. So we'll talk about what is, but we have to start with understanding metabolism and calorie burn so that you know how the serial dieter gets into the mess the serial dieter is in. So metabolism is the number of calories a person burns every day. 65% of the calories we burn are from activities that require no active participation. Like if you're watching this lecture and you're breathing in and out, I sure hope you are. You're burning calories, your brain's functioning, you're burning calories, your heart is beating, you're burning calories. So this is the basal metabolic rate. Then we digest about 10% of calories burned while digesting food. And then 25% is burned through physical activity. And that's everything from loading the dishwasher to workouts in the gym, which is what I was doing before I logged on with you today. Now, your body composition affects your metabolism. So when you become over fat and you lose a lot of muscle, and those two things usually go together, your metabolic rate goes down. So a pound of muscle will burn about 14 calories a day, and a pound of fat burns 3 calories a day. So sarcopenia is the process of losing muscle mass and gaining fat as you age. You can also speed up that process, by the way, and you can counter it with working out. One of the reasons I'm a gym rat and a runner and all that stuff is because I want to continue to have the body of somebody a whole lot younger than me instead of becoming decrepit as I age. So you can keep that muscle mass, not all of it, but a good deal of it with physical activity. Now, optimal diet and exercise can prevent this from happening, as I mentioned. But if you don't do those things, your body composition will get much worse over time. And so the consequences of this, let's just look at an example. A person who loses 9 pounds of muscle and gains 9 pounds of fat just by not being very careful about what they eat, not exercising. But they consume the same number of calories every day. Well, at the end of 5 years, their metabolism is slower, but the calorie intake is the same with the reduction of calorie burn of 100 calories. So this is like 10.42 pounds per year gained with only 9 pounds of change, right? So you consume the same number of calories and gain weight. So that's in fact what a lot of people tell us. Like, I don't know how this happened to me. Because honestly, Pam, and I believe people, what they tell me, they'll say, honestly, Pam, I have never really changed what I'm eating. I mean, I know what I'm eating is not the best food now that I've watched your videos or taken your class or whatever, but I really never changed the quantity of food and that kind of thing. So I don't know how I got so fat. It's because of the change in body composition. So you eat the same stuff and you gain weight. And then dieting makes things worse, and here's how. So the first thing dieters are told is this is all about mathematical calculations, which is true, kind of. But for every 3,500 extra calories consumed, about a pound is gained. And then theoretically, for every 3,500 calorie reduction in consumption, you should lose a pound. And by the way, if you start looking into diet plans and that sort of thing, something resembling this rule appears in nutrition textbooks and articles and expert guidelines. So, based on this, if you just look at it as a math issue, what goes on in the heads of serial dieters is if I can lose weight by reducing my calorie intake by 3,500 calories every 3 or 4 days, what if I do it every 2 days instead? That'll accelerate weight loss, right? Except it doesn't. Your average dieter's metabolism is already slower due to changes in body composition, but the more you restrict the calorie intake, the slower the metabolism can become. So now you have two things working against you: the adverse changes in body composition and the lower metabolism from eating. And I'll tell you why this happens in a second here, but eating not enough food. So eating less can result in gaining more. It's called the starvation response, or the formal term is adaptive thermogenesis. So calorie restriction and weight loss can cause a decrease in energy expenditure. And then the reduction in metabolic rate increases as the calorie restriction becomes greater. And even worse, hunger increases even more while eating less, because historically, weight loss has not been good for humans. It triggers the signal to eat more. So the decrease in energy expenditure, by the way, persists long after the calorie restricted diet is ended, which makes it easier to regain any weight that has been lost, and then to gain even more when the person says, I can't do this anymore, and starts eating normally again. So alternating periods of calorie restriction and excess calorie intake leads to even more weight gain. And I saw that in my own friend group with a woman who, believe it or not, my friends don't listen to me sometimes, but this woman had been trying all these different diets, and she dieted herself pretty fat. And the last diet that she did, that I know about anyway, was the HCG diet, the hormone treatments, and 600 calorie a day diet. And the result was that she got bigger than she ever was before, because when she couldn't stand eating 600 calories a day, she went back to normal eating, but her metabolism was slowed down. So every single one of these crazy diets she did made her fatter and fatter and fatter. So I've seen this happen in my own friend group.